Yeah, pretty much. So, what was our next segment, Ashton?
Stephanie McMahon, Triple H. Um, she's talking about how she can't go back to jail and basically just crying, talking about how she couldn't stand the look of utter disappointment in their daughter's eyes. I guess that the hour and a half that she spent in jail really hardened her.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, prison ain't easy. So,
Orange is the new Steph.
I saw what you did there.
So Triple H consoles her, but he is interrupted by Randy Orton. And he says that Brock Lesnar wasn't the original plan last week. He was. And he isn't happy about Roman Reigns messing everything up. And Triple H says that plans change, and he could change the match at SummerSlam, but he's not going to, because as long as Reigns is in the picture, Orton isn't going to get a shot. Because as long as Reigns is in the picture, he's going to keep screwing it up for him. So Triple H says that if Orton wants another shot, that he should just try and take Reigns out. And if he can, that's great. If not, well, good luck to you. But he does reveal that it's going to be Reigns versus Kane tonight. And Orton says that now that he has a problem with Kane, he knew he had a problem with Reigns, and apparently now he also has a problem with Triple H. And then he walks off.
Yeah, this is totally unfamiliar. It's not like Randy Orton and the Authority have ever been at odds before.
This
But
seems like an ongoing storyline since, I don't know, December.
and the funny thing is, and I don't think it's going to happen, I'm just spitballing here for the sake of discussion, that, Randy Orton has said multiple times that he hates playing the babyface, but you really can't help when you look at this in this relationship that it would inevitably result in a babyface turn for Orton by, RKOing Triple H, or even worse, punting Stephanie McMahon, one or the other. It's ridiculous. And another thing I have to note, the Authority must really hate Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, because both of those guys are so determined to keep the championship out of the Authority's camp. Reigns is gunning for Orton, and Ambrose has already proclaimed that he'll never allow Seth Rollins to cash in. So, those Authority problem, man. Those Authority problems.
Yeah. The Authority apparently still has beef with the Shield, even though one of them is a former member of the Shield, because it's just Ambrose and Reigns that's screwing everything up for them, and it's basically just what's left of the Shield. And they're not even really, planning it. It's just kind of coincidentally working out that way.
Right.
I think it's hilarious, to be honest. So up next, we get Paige, who comes out, and we get a look back at her heel turn from last week, and she says sometimes her emotions get the best of her. She's young, and she talks about how AJ is still her best friend in the whole wide world, and she says that what she did last week was deplorable, and that she saw AJ not as a friend, but as someone who took her title in that moment. And she promises that she'll never act that way again. AJ's music hits. She comes out, of course, with the Divas title, skipping around. She hits the ring. CM Punk chants as usual. She starts to talk, but Paige interrupts her, and AJ gives her the death glare and says, "I wasn't done." And then she says that she knows what it's like to have the title taken away from her in an instant, and she doesn't play little girl games, which immediately caught me off guard, because I just was like, oh, yeah, except for that one time with Caitlyn, but just ignore that. She says that she knows what it's like. She says that she asks Paige if she has a problem or if she doesn't like me, and she says that if she did, she would say it to her face rather than, like I said earlier, playing the little girl games and doing it behind her back. Yeah, basically just a bunch of little girl drama. And Paige eventually says something about how if you really think that I don't like you anymore or if I have a problem with you, you're crazy. And AJ, that's her trigger word, dude. That's the word that she used to freak out on people for. And Paige just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you that, and I would never make fun of your mental health." And then AJ says that she understands, and then she jumps Paige, and we have a bit of a brawl.
The funny thing is, I like this segment. I did. I have no problem with the actual content of the segment. I think where I'm kind of on the fence at the moment is how I feel about Paige's portrayal thus far in this angle, because I love the beatdown the week prior. Loved it. Thought it was very aggressive, very fierce. Love seeing that Paige come out. But then to not see her completely own up to it, but still try and maintain this facade, still try and engage in psychological warfare. In
Yeah.
a way, I can appreciate it.
To me, the only way that it'll make sense is if it works. If Paige gets the title back and then goes full bitch mode after that.
I can agree with that. To me, it more and more each week, it's becoming to me that Paige must win the Divas Championship back at SummerSlam
Yeah,
for me to really feel like this is connecting.
completely.
Yeah, I just want to address real quick. We don't have to really hash it out now, but I did hear a rumor that this match may get a gimmick attached to it. I
Really?
would be open to that. I don't know what type of gimmick, but I mean, I'd certainly be open to it if they'd want to do. I mean, we just got a 2 out of 3 falls match at Battle Round, so I guess it couldn't be that. But you know, maybe some type of matchup that would really give that quote unquote decisive winner. You know, the two gunslingers in the West, as AJ called them. So we'll have to see where that goes from there. But as far as this segment, I enjoyed it. I loved how AJ just ran Paige into the barricade. And then a clever moment here. She tried tossing Paige into the steel steps, but Paige was intelligent enough to pretty much just hop onto him, hop over, and just get out of Dodge.
Why is she the first person to ever think of that?
I mean, she's young and intelligent, dude. I mean, she's setting the trends here.
No, but John, why is she the first person to ever think of that?
I don't know, man.
Come on, John. You can do this.
Why do you think?
I'm asking you, man.
Well, why are we even doing that? I don't know. You tell me.
I've been trying to figure it out since it happened. I don't get it. Why did nobody else ever do this before? And then later on in the night, Roman Reigns gets tossed into the steel stairs, and he freaking goes shoulder first like some kind of John Cena moron.
Well, then they clearly don't watch the Divas segments, and shame on them. So, you know, I don't know, man. I thought it was clever of Paige. I thought it was a nice touch, because AJ should get her beat down eventually, but it's not going to be tonight. Maybe it'll be next week. I would have it before SummerSlam, because as we just established, you and I both believe in the moment that Paige should regain the Divas Championship at the pay-per-view. But I am enjoying this program thus far. I'm just still waiting for it to hit that next gear, and that might just happen during their match at SummerSlam. So let's wait and see this one out.
Oh, I hope so.
I think it will. I have faith in them.
All right. So up next, we had Triple H comes out with Stephanie McMahon, talks about how he is disgusted with the fans. He goes on this great, like, preach, like he's Papa Triple H, about how, you know, fans, we've been through a lot together. We've laughed, we've cried, you know, all this stuff. And then he talks about how, I don't think I've ever really been truly disgusted with you until now. It was just great, because it's like Papa Triple H preaching to his kids, all 12,000 of them, or however many were in the arena. And he's disgusted with the fans for laughing at his wife getting handcuffed like a common criminal last week. Goes on and on about how he'll never forgive the fans and all this stuff. Says that it was all one big misunderstanding. It was no big deal. All the charges were dropped. The resisting arrest charge was dropped, all this. The only one that wasn't dropped was the assault and battery charge that Brie Bella will not drop. And to me, now, there are two flaws in Triple H's logic so far. First of all, the man who dressed up as another man and pretended to rape a corpse in a freaking church or whatever it was is disgusted with other people, because he has every reason in the world for that. And second of all, because he says all the charges were dropped, forgetting to mention the fact that the only charge that really matters at the end of the day, the one that started this whole thing in the first place, the assault and battery charge, wasn't dropped. See, now, Triple H, what you need to understand is, when you say all the charges are dropped, that means that all the charges were dropped. Even if you want to add on the little but this one, then sure, that makes sense if it's a minor charge. If you want to say all the charges were dropped but the assault, or but the resisting arrest charge, which we can fight, that makes sense. But if the main charge hasn't been dropped, the one that started this whole thing in the first place, you can't start a sentence with all the charges were dropped. That's just stupid.
Well, I think the fatal flaw, at least with your first argument, I agree completely with your second argument, is that you're recalling history, which is a huge WWE no-no. You know, like there's a cutoff date for when certain events happen, so... You know,
2 years, apparently, because John Cena brought up 2012 tonight, so 2 years is apparently the cutoff.
Yeah, so we're going to have a stern talking to after this program goes off the air. Recalling history. Shame on you. But, yeah, dude, I completely get what you're saying. It's like all the charges were dropped, but the one that pretty much started this whole thing to begin with. So I'm just thinking, like, oh, so you still have a major problem.
It's like O.J. Simpson saying all the charges were dropped, except for that murder one.
Yeah, just that minor inconvenience to my freedom.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're just
Kobe Bryant. All the charges were dropped except the rape one.
yeah, again, just a minor nuisance of the judicial system. You know,
Right.
nothing too major, of course. Yeah, right.
Clearly.
So they're just putting on the facade that they're in control, this illusion that everything's okay, when, yeah, you've still got that glaring charge in front of you. So I get completely what you're saying, Ashton. Then Stephanie takes the
Just that
mic.
nagging assault and battery charge, man.
That nagging assault and battery charge, I tell you, just can't let it go. Then Stephanie takes the mic, pretty much says how prison has devastated her. How her children look at her and she sees the sadness in their eyes, the
I know.
confusion.
An hour and a half in prison is enough to change anyone, John.
I mean, you learn stuff in there, man. I mean, you at least learn.
She's seen stuff, John.
Yeah, she's done
She's
things.
seen stuff. She could totally be like Leo Kruger now. My eyes have seen what they've seen, and my hands have done what they've done.
Exactly. I mean, she's just a hardened criminal now. But she goes on how even the parents of other children within the 1% community won't allow them to come over and play with her daughters.
And to me, the most hilarious thing about this is she didn't say they won't allow their kids to come over and play with my daughters. No, she specifically says they won't even set up a play date with my daughters. Because apparently, and this is a great George Carlin stand-up bit if you haven't seen it yet, everything is being so rigidly scheduled and monitored about kids that even playing has to be scheduled.
Yeah, really. I think I remember that bit. Yeah, man, he'd look at that now and he'd be like, see, I called it. Told it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah, she's going on about that. But then we get an interruption, not a Bella twin.
No, Chris Jericho!
Well, yeah, I was going to build it up a little bit, but there you go. It's Chris freaking Jericho.
I'm too excited. No build-up. Stop with the drama.
Well, then you take it over, man. How'd you feel about this?
It was amazing. Chris Jericho is like back to his 2001 status right now.
I've got to tell you, so far this current run, I think this has been one of Jericho's better runs recently.
I honestly, dude, I'm going to say this is his best run since before he left the first time in 2005. This is better than his 2007 run, better than his 2011 run. This is his best run since his first run, I will say.
The only one that I would really contend, but I'm not going to do it here because I want to focus on the Raw review, would be the 2007 run because I immensely enjoyed that. But right. I think this is right up there.
Let me put it this way. It's not better than that one yet, but it is on pace to be.
Oh, definitely. See, that I can agree with you with because I think even the match at Battleground, which I had my grumblings about, really that's no fault of Jericho or anybody. I mean, they had their match. Right. So, but as far as him working...
And obviously he's going to give Wyatt his win back at SummerSlam, and then probably again at Night of Champions, if I had to guess. Exactly.
So as far as Jericho, has performed with the promos, the presentation, everything, he has just been so on point. And he starts off the promo. Now, I did get scared for a second, Ashton, I'll admit, because he tries to get the crowd to sing along, and he chooses the Bad Boy song, from Cops.
And it worked. Crowd was singing with it.
Yeah, the crowd sang with it, which was a huge relief to me because at first I thought it was going to bomb because I'm like, oh, Chris, what are you doing? Oh, don't do it. And then when it caught on, I'm like, oh, you know what? You really are magnificent if you can make that work.
Yeah. And dude, here's the thing. While Stephanie was and Triple H, both of them, while they were talking before Jericho came out, the crowd was chanting Jailbird, Jailbird. And then Jericho comes out, he does the bad boy shtick, and then Triple H goes, ha 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 ha, you really think that's funny? You think that's funny, Chris? Come on, it's not funny. And then Jericho goes, oh, it's okay, Stephanie, you don't need to be ashamed. Orange is the new black, and it's okay to be a jailbird.
Yeah, that was great. Great, relevant reference by Y2J.
Yep.
He then pulls out one of his more classic references, which was one of your favorites when Jericho and Stephanie would exchange verbal barbs with each other. Because
Wait. Before we talk about that, which was brilliant, but before we go there, I just want to point out Jericho said something about how, you see, this is why you buy the WWE Network, so that we can watch moments like you getting arrested over and over and over again. And in that moment, Chris Jericho did more for the WWE Network than the WWE's all of their shilling and shoving it down our throats has ever done combined.
I like it because it was just a very quick talking point.
Yeah.
That's it. He mentions it.
He
and
made
then
it seem
moves on to
cool.
the next thing. Exactly. when you're really trying to, I mean, what did we talk about actually with that documentary we watched together about marketing and whatnot?
Yeah.
People don't like when they know that you're blatantly trying to sell them something.
Yep.
But here Jericho wraps it. He puts it under the guise of enjoying Stephanie McMahon's misery.
Yeah.
And that's a brilliant sell. So with that said, I have to give the honor to you, though, because you really love this. Again, now I think we can discuss the reference that Jericho pulled out, because for the life of me, I just can't remember what he called her. What was that again?
He threw it back, man. He threw it back all the way back to 2001, 2000, 1999. He called her a filthy, dirty, brutal, bottom-feeding trash bag, and then Triple H cut him off before he could say ho, but it was amazing.
I love how I think WWE is really finally this year, for all the complaints that you and I may have at times, and a lot of other wrestling fans may seem to have at certain periods of the product, I think they're finally learning how to straddle that line between family friendly and that edge. Because I love that Triple H cut him off at the appropriate time, but we were still able to really enjoy where Jericho was going with it.
Well, here's the thing, dude. I feel like they're finally getting a strong PG rating, whereas before they were barely PG. Basically, they were G-rated for the longest time. Like, during the whole, 2009 special guest hosts crap, all of that entire, I would say 2009 right up until Punk's pipe bomb in 2011, they were G. Barely, just borderline PG. And now they are a really strong PG, and they're kind of dipping their toes into that PG-13 water.
And it's great stuff. I mean, it really is. And you got to wonder, was this Raw a Triple H Raw? Was this Raw Kevin Owens Raw? But in this moment, it doesn't really matter, because this segment, I just think, was brilliant. You had Triple H, cut Jericho off at the pass. As you said, Ashton, he said, Chris, instead of worrying about me and my wife, what you need to be worried about is Bray Wyatt. And then Chris, he gets serious. He says, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is why I'm out here. I do want Bray Wyatt. I want him in that ring right here, right now, tonight, which gets a nice pop from Houston. And then Triple H kind of reiterates and says, oh, yeah, you want Bray Wyatt tonight? Well, you're not going to get him. But what you will get tonight, and before he can finish, Jericho gets clocked in the back of the head with a Money in the Bank briefcase, and emerges Plan B, Seth Rollins.
Yep, and Triple H pretty much just says, yeah, Jericho versus Rollins is happening tonight now. So there you go, Chris. Now, I have to wonder, if it would have been Nikki Bella, just for example, who came out to interrupt Stephanie McMahon, would we have been faced with a Seth Rollins versus Nikki Bella main event tonight?
I don't think so, man. I think they would have adapted.
Would Seth Rollins have been on cue to run out and crack Nikki Bella over the back with his briefcase?
I mean, maybe.
How else do you communicate? Did Triple H have a secret walkie-talkie in the ring talking to the back? Hey, somebody get Seth out there. Get him ready to tell him to come out and hit Chris over the back with the briefcase. I'm going to set up a match between the two of them tonight.
Yeah, you always have to wonder how things like that are coordinated. How much is done in a secluded area backstage? How much is just on the fly, just moment to moment.
I'm talking from a kayfabe perspective.
Right. Well, you have to
obviously
imagine.
This was all planned ahead of time, but from a kayfabe perspective, how could Stephanie and Triple H possibly had known that it was going to be Chris Jericho to come out, to set Seth Rollins up to come out and crack him over the back with the briefcase to set up the match?
That is true. You have an argument there. I don't know. Maybe they have a female and a male designator. Hey, if any males interrupt, Seth, you go out and you take care of them. And if females interrupt you, you take care of them. Maybe they have a female authority figure, waiting in the wings. So.
Tamina?
Well, she's out with an injury. I would have said Tamina if she wasn't recovering at the moment.
Alicia Fox?
Probably.
Well, she was in another match.
She was in another match. So I don't know, but yeah.
I don't know either. I'm just confused. So maybe they brought Beth Phoenix back for one night.
Maybe.
I don't freaking know.